my journey has taken me from running something that I created at places like Oxford, Cambridge, Bristol, UCL, and LSE, something called the Leadership Tournament. I've run something called the 1000 Global Leaders Program in Cambodia. I've trained top organizations like GlaxoSmithKline, Unilever, and ANZ Royal Bank. I've worked at building programs and delivering them for top MBA schools in America. And I've also created the world's largest 21st century free leadership course. So we have nearly 20,000 people on our program. And what I feel that does is show me a certain perspective on the realities of education for our generation. But I'm not here to tell you stories. I'm not really very good at stories. I'm German, I'm not very funny. So if I can't be funny, I'll be efficient. And so what I want to tell you is what I think it's time to talk about the elephants in the room. The elephants in the room of education. Because I believe, what we talk about when we talk about education is the possibility of building a better world. Right? We need to educate ourselves so that we can build a better world for ourselves, selfishly, individually. I want a better job, I want a better, happier life. And also for the communities that we care about. Do you guys agree? Yes. Okay, so we're not crazy. Unemployed. And unemployment doesn't count something called underemployment, which is basically when you have a degree but you're working at a coffee shop. I love coffee shops, there's nothing wrong with working at coffee shops. But you don't need to spend 3 to 4 years of your life and a lot of cash to do that, right? So this pernicious problem of unemployment is draining the soul of our generation. And this is something that is common across the board. In Europe, we have countries like Spain where up to 50% are unemployed or underemployed. In the UK, it's about 20%. In America, it's about 20% too. The ILO expects that for even places like ASEAN, youth unemployment is doing one thing. This. By the end of this decade, it's expected to be about 20% in this part of the world. And this is a growing part of the world. And I think that's very sad. Because we're educated, right? But then why don't we become entrepreneurs? Who says we need to stop? Let's go become entrepreneurs. But you know what? We're also the least entrepreneurial generation. And although we have fantastic platforms like Kickstarter, and we have great inspiring people who talk to us about creating their startups, this is unfortunately just a very small minority. The mass of people are not entrepreneurs. But you know what? Who can blame them? Because one, you got your mum and dad. Who here out of your parents said, yes, go become an entrepreneur? Hands up. One. My parents are entrepreneurs, right? And they said, don't do it. My grandparents on both sides are entrepreneurs. They said, don't do it. Go work at a bank. Have a safe job. So even though our parents love us, they're not pushing us into entrepreneurship. And even if we wanted to, we couldn't, because you know what? I think many of you watched Sir Ken Robinson's talk, Why Schools Kill Creativity. Even if we wanted to be entrepreneurs, it's very hard in an education system. And then finally, the third issue, as if those weren't enough, right? As if that wasn't enough, is we are totally lost. We are also the most lost generation in history. And by lost, I mean we're disconnected from our identity, we lack meaningful direction and purpose, we don't know where we're from, we don't know where we are, and we don't know where we want to go. It's so bad that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, identified 3 things that could, in simple talk, totally mess up the world. Cyber terrorism, someone breaking the internet. Systemic crisis, another financial crisis, basically. And number 3, the lost generation. Their point is that there are so many young people today who are so unemployed and so directionless that it threatens the very stability of our societies. And there's no place you need to look further than the Middle East. Because a lot of the turmoil in the Middle East is driven by the fact that it has by far the highest unemployment rate for youth in the world. So, where does that take us? Well, we need to think about why is this happening. And my specialty, my passion, what I love, is something called complex system science. And what makes a system tick, what makes it exist is its purpose. The difference between a network and a system is purpose. Systems have purpose, networks just connections. And the purpose of a system defines what it is. And the purpose of the modern day education system is not to empower us to build a better world, ladies and gentlemen. It is to do the following. The purpose is to transfer the standard knowledge to the most amount of people for the least amount of money. Does anyone disagree with that? Does anyone think that's a bad idea? I think it's a really bad idea. The reason why I think it's a bad idea is as follows. Let's take the lowest cost element, okay? I find it outrageous how expensive a degree is. If you go to a private institution in Malaysia today, it's going to cost you 50,000 ringgit, right? Round numbers. It's also going to cost you about 50,000 ringgit in living costs. But because you've also sacrificed 3 to 4 years of your life when you could be working, there's another thing, which is the opportunity cost. And if you're earning 15,000 ringgit a year, you're roughly on 50,000 over that time. So your degree has suddenly cost you 150,000 ringgit. But that's not even the biggest price. The biggest price is it's 3 years of your life. The most precious time. And that, I think, is outrageous. Because the reason you do this is to get a good job, right? That's why you pay this money. I think you know where this is going. Getting good grades does not make you employable or entrepreneurial. It does not matter if you have a perfect GPA. That does not mean you will get a job. The head of people for Google, at the end of last year, announced that Google would no longer recruit people based on their GPA. You know why? Because they found zero correlation between GPA and professional success. And so suddenly, you are looking at the world's worst value proposition, right? You're paying a hell of a lot of money and time for nothing. And if I said to you, guys, pay me $150,000, give me 3 years of your life, and you get a piece of paper, and you might, maybe you might get a job. Who's with me? I'd be so rich. But that's exactly what you're doing. I also did that. Because those numbers I showed you earlier, they apply. They could be $50,000 US, $50,000 of costs, $50,000 opportunity costs. Whatever country in the world, it's the same math. And that takes us to the third thing. Because the problem with the education system, the real essence, the real problem with it, is it kills our identity. Because the system makes us. From the age of 7, you go into that system and every year it's just, this is the most important exam of your life. This is the most important exam of your life. This is the most important exam of your life. I could do this for like 20 steps, right? And you're already bored, right? But you've done it for 20 years. And that is a really big problem. Because if we don't have our identity, then we are lost. And so I think the most pernicious of these 3 failures is the fact that we are robbed of our identity. We are totally lost because the system has never engaged us to make ourselves. So, what do we need to do? Where is this going? Well, I think the key point here is to recognize that some of you in this room might actually be saying, no, I don't agree. I'm fine. I'm the person you're talking about, and I'm in that I'm doing pretty good. And we had some fantastic young people standing here at the front, sharing their exceptional talent, from go-karting to startups. Really impressive stuff, but from my experience, you guys are the minority. You're the shiners. You're the 20%. But if you look at the mass of the classroom, they ain't like you. Because they're not even here at places like this. And so I think the key issue here is to recognize that there is an emerging divide between those who get it and those who don't. And the top 20% are succeeding everywhere on this planet. They're getting the good jobs, they're kicking ass, they're making a lot of money. Life is frickin' sweet. And then there are the 80% who can't get a good job, they're burdened by debt, or in Asia, it's not economic debt, it's emotional debt, right? Because you owe your parents because they pay for you, yeah? Still, it's painful, right? So what are we going to do? Well, we need to repurpose the system. And so I found this fantastic picture on 9gag. Anyone use 9gag here? Oh, love it. But I don't know who to attribute it to, so I just left the via 9gag on there. But there's an amazing artist out there that I'm very grateful for. Thank you. Because what I think we need to do is we need to get away from this obsession about learning stuff. Because you know what? Nobody cares what you've learned. It's not important. Because it's so goddamn boring to have been educated for 20 years that you're just surviving, right? You're just surviving. And so I don't blame them. I'm actually an adjunct lecturer at a local university here, and I have to deal with these kids, so I can tell you, I see them every day. So the first point is to recognize that we need to start here at step number 1. We need to awaken people, and the way you awaken people is by inspiring. Before we do that, we have to recognize, yo, slow down. Because not everybody is interested in it. You can't help those who don't want to help themselves. And so the first step must be to inspire. Those who are so lost, those who sit in the classroom like this, like, I just don't care. You know, who are playing Clash of Clans and enable them to discover their identity, discover who I am, where I'm from, what I am today, and what I could become. That's the most important thing, what I could become. Get them excited that they could become something, someone. And that most importantly of all, the seed is to make them realize they must be the makers of their own future. So what does that take us to? To enable the student to become a creator of two things, their personal happiness and their professional success. Because you know one of the biggest, suckiest things in the world today? This lostness causes us to be one of the most depressed generations as well. I've had 3 friends who've been hospitalized in London because of depression, burnout, lack of meaning in their lives. So you're saying, I want to be a rock star, I want to be a leadership coach, I want to be this and that, and you support them to develop their capabilities. And then step number 3, you challenge them to create awesome results. Okay? Because this takes me to a really important point that I want to be closing towards, which is this. The teachers know this. I'm on the side of the teachers. The teachers hate the system. They have to sit there and mark your exams, and they don't care if you've got 65% or 64%. Do you care? You care? Why? Focusing on the lowest added value, when we should be creating real outcomes and real results. But that's the task of the educator. What is the task of the student? It's very simple. If we're going to become employable, if we're going to be entrepreneurial, if we're going to be successful, these are the fundamental 3 questions. There are only 3 things an employer ever cares about. Alright? And it's not your grades, it's not your GPA. It's this. 1, what are you going to create for me? I'm going to pay you, what value are you going to create? 2, how are you going to fit my company culture? Because if you're a muppet, if you're someone who's disruptive, who doesn't have a good attitude, I'm not going to hire you. And number 3, how committed are you to being here? What kind of experience do you want to have? Then you need to look at the core capabilities, leadership, management, entrepreneurship skills. These are the skills that will define your success. Leadership, the capacity to influence people to work towards achieving a goal and adapt to change. Management, organizing complexity to deliver optimized performance. Entrepreneurship, exploring possibilities and creating innovative outcomes. And then finally, the key enablers, what we call A to E, attitude, behavior, competencies, drive, and experience. I'll come towards an end on a story, because the reason I was in the Philippines was to do a half Ironman. Anyone know what an Ironman is? Right? I've done a full Ironman, so I was like, this will be well easy, this is just half the distance. Right? Terrible mistake. Okay, and I can tell you that because I had the numbers tattooed into my legs from the sunburn I got. And the reason why that happened is because you're obviously running at midday in 35-degree heat, white dude who forgot to put on sun cream, completely dehydrated. And I'm like, why? Why am I doing this? I paid a lot of money to fly to the Philippines, to enter this race, to run in the midday heat. I'm freaking burnt to hell. I'm dehydrated. I want to give up. Why am I here? Why didn't I just give up? And the reason I didn't is because I'm stubborn. And I didn't want to give up the goal that I had created for myself. And the key point there is that I set myself the goal. If someone else had told me, maybe I would have given up. So to awaken drive and push ourselves forward, it's so important that we push ourselves. So ladies and gentlemen, what am I saying to you? I'm saying this. In the 21st century reality, you cannot rely on the education system to build you a better future, because it will not. It will cost you too much money, it will not make you work ready, and it will make sure that you're very lost. You need to secure your own future. The difference between those who mainly survive in the 21st century and those who thrive is what I just showed you. Those who can create value, those who have leadership, management, entrepreneurship skills, and those who have A to E. So, where does this leave you? I think it leaves you with one simple question. Will you find the courage to believe in yourself? Will you find the courage to get over your fears, to be bold, to be brave, to be brilliant? And will you find the courage to build your better world? Thank you very much.